Okay, so welcome to this video, and in this video we are going to talk about what is meant by forced degradation study. So you must have heard about this study maybe during method development, method validation, or even during stability study. So let us understand what this means to us during the pharmaceutical product development. And here is the presentation now. So as a part of this presentation, I am going to walk you through 8 different points. And the first point is what is mean by the forced degradation study. And here is the answer for that. So the forced degradation is what the exposure of the drug substance or drug product to different little harsher stress conditions, and how to decide on to these stress conditions, it is more important because these stress conditions must be having a practical relevance as per as the product shelf life or the storage is concerned. They must also relevance in terms of the product storage. And let us understand now under what conditions the API or drug product, once it is manufactured and still its shelf life may go through. And these are the various stress conditions. So the first can be a temperature. So the product can experience the variation in temperature. The high temperature will lead to a thermal degradation. Similarly, the change in humidity. The higher humidity can also make product susceptible for the degradation if the product is hygroscopic in nature. The light, if the product is sensitive to light, then there may be a chance of photolytic degradation if the product gets exposed to the light. Oxidation, right, if the product is susceptible for oxidation and the surrounding consists of oxygen, or even if the smaller amount of the ozone can also propagate the oxidation reaction. And hydrolysis, water hydrolysis or acid hydrolysis and alkali hydrolysis even can be a possibility. So these are the possible conditions that product can experience throughout its shelf life, and hence it is very important to understand whether these all conditions are considered during designing of the forced degradation study. If you are not going to consider these conditions as a part of your forced degradation, probably your study will be incomplete. So what is the purpose of forced degradation? And there are 10 different points that I am going to walk you through. The first one is useful tool in predicting the drug stability, as we are going to evaluate the degradation of the product that talks about the stability of the molecule or the product. If I expose the product into the acidic conditions, am I getting some degradants out of the study, or I'm not getting any degradants out of the acid hydrolysis? Now, this will tell about the product's susceptibility into the acidic environment. So it is going to understand, it is going to help us in understanding what is the stability of the product under a given stress condition. The second is to identify possible degradation product. So once we expose the product at the designed stress conditions, maybe let us say thermal degradation. So what are the possible degradants we are getting out of that? Now this is going to give you a list of the possible degradants during the different stress conditions. The third one is to establish degradation pathways. You can easily identify whether this is acid hydrolysis product or this is a thermal degradant. So based on to the study. So the pathways of the degradation can be easily identified to establish intrinsic stability of the drug molecule. So in case if you are into a formulation development and you are now going to stabilize the molecule with the addition of the suitable excipient. For example, if your drug substance is susceptible for the acid hydrolysis, then you are very much clear that I must develop a formulation which will not have the acidic pH. But for that reason, first you must understand the intrinsic molecular degradation or the intrinsic molecular stability. So the forced degradation is going to give you that intrinsic stability data in your hand so that you will be able to, you know, develop a formulation to stabilize your product still its shelf life. The fifth one is to validate stability indicating analytical procedures. Now, how one can prove that yes, my methods are going to be a stability indicating in nature, that my method will be able to determinate the changes possible during the stability study or the shelf life of the product, and one can be a degradants, right? So in case if the method needs to be a stability indicating in nature, we need to first understand what are the conditions that product is going through, what are the stress conditions that product is going through during the shelf life study, and then understand what is the impact of those conditions on little harsher side with the harsher strength to predict what could be the worst case scenario in case of acid hydrolysis, in case of alkali hydrolysis, in case of light oxidation or the photolytic degradation. Now, these all points are going to give a confidence that, okay, yes, we have studied the entire conditions, what is really the product is going through, and we found that these are the degradants possible and they are well separated onto my chromatographic run. Now, this is what is called as the stability indicating nature of the method. And to prove that, the force degradation study is going to help you out. The sixth point is to identify impurities related to drug substances or excipients. Now, if you are into a formulation development, there are some impurities which are only getting generated out of the API degradation or the drug substances degradation. But are there any another impurities which are extra and only getting generated because of the interaction of your drug substance with the excipients? Now, this can be identified with the help of forced degradation study. The next one is to generate more stable formulations. See, the purpose of your product development is what? You want to have a best formulation, a stable formulation possible. And what is meaning of the stable formulation? Where there are less degradation possible. And how you can going to understand now in which condition the degradation is more, in which condition degradation is less. It is with help of forced degradation. So the forced degradation is going to help you identify those conditions under which your product is more stable as compared to the another conditions. The next point is to facilitate improvements in the manufacturing process and the formulations. So the force degradation is also going to help you understand, what must be your manufacturing processes and conditions so that the degradation will not happen, or if they are susceptible for the degradation, how you can control the minimum possible degradation with the appropriate manufacturing processes and formulations. The next one is to choose the correct storage conditions and the packaging. It is very important that even if your product is susceptible for some conditions and those conditions are not in your control, for example, the photolytic degradation. So the photolytic degradation is going to be a possibility if as there is a light available during the shelf life of the product, right? So how one can understand that? So that the product will be packaged in a such a material, the light will not reach to the product. Maybe you can think of using the amber colored foil or amber colored the amber colored film, so that your product will get so that your product will not get exposed to the photolytic degradation. So storage condition. So if your product is susceptible for the thermal degradation, so probably you need to store the product at the cool condition, at the cold storage area like 2 to 5 degrees Celsius, or even at the deep freeze like minus 20 degrees Celsius. So these conditions can be evolved. The storage conditions and packaging conditions can be evolved based on to the forced degradation data. And the 10th one is to develop analytical methods. See, the purpose of your analytical method is to make sure that your method is able to quantify, detect whatever impurities are present still its shelf life. The purpose of method is not only to release the product, but to also test the product still its shelf life. And for that, rather than confirming whether my method is really stability indicated in nature during validation, why can't I confirm that during the method development stage? And that is where the force degradation study going to help you a great way to have a stability indicating analytical method in the place. So these are the 10 different purposes of the force degradation study. So what are force degradation conditions? The first one is acid hydrolysis. So the acid hydrolysis can be studied by having the suitable strength of the acid. It can be, let us say, 0.1 molar hydrochloric acid or 1 molar hydrochloric acid. Now there is no as such guidance available what is the strength of acid you must use. But you must decide onto the strength of the acid purely based onto the degradation achieved. And then you must understand now what is the preferable degradation which needs to be achieved. So the degradation must be in the range of 5 to 20%. The degradation must be in the range of the 5 to 20%. So for example, zero point 0.1 molar hydrochloric acid doesn't give you a more than 5% degradation. So you can increase the strength of the acid and make sure that you are getting a degradation in the window of 5% to the 20 percentage. Similarly, the temperature requirement and the time of exposure can be manipulated to achieve the degradation in the range of 5 to 20%. It is also a good idea to arrest the reaction acid hydrolysis by neutralizing the sample solution by adding suitable strength of alkali reagent. The second can be the base hydrolysis or the alkali hydrolysis. So in this case, the experience can be planned in a similar manner. Expose the drug product under zero point 0.1 molar or 1 molar sodium hydroxide or maybe any another suitable alkali reagent, and then understand how much degradations you are able to achieve, and don't forget to neutralize the sample solution. Water hydrolysis can be conducted in the presence of water at maybe suitable temperature like 80 degrees Celsius or even more than that. Oxidation is possible by with the help of hydrogen peroxide. So the strength of the reagent again can be decided based on to the nature of the molecule from maybe 3% to 30% or even maybe less than 3% if your molecule is really a very oxidative in nature. Then the thermal degradation. So the thermal degradation can be conducted under two different conditions, maybe dry heat for the solid and uh, the liquid products, and wet heat is possible only for the solid products. It is not really required for the liquid or semi solid product. You can think of the thermal degradation maybe at 40 degrees Celsius or even at 120 degrees Celsius, and the requirement remains same. The percentage of the degradation, how much you are able to achieve the degradation, whether it is 5% or in between 5 to 20%. And if it is not in between that, then you need to manipulate the conditions in a such a way to achieve the degradation in the range of 5 to 20%. The sixth one is humidity. So the humidity is also the another very important factor which governs the stability of the product, and hence it is always advisable to conduct an humidity exposure of, let us say, not less than 90% relative humidity, for example not less than 7 days. The last one is the photolytic degradation. So as per the ICH guideline Q1B, you need to expose a drug product for minimum of 1.2 million lux hours visible light, and if it is a UV radiations, you should expose the product for minimum of 200 watt hours per meter square. So these are the conditions, exposure conditions during the forced degradation study. Then what you are going to evaluate at the end? So once you complete the force degradation, now these are the two important aspects that you are going to evaluate. One is what? The absence of interference. See, you want to prove that my method is specific in nature. Now what is meant by specificity? That you are not getting any interference from the sample matrix. And even during the stability, if there are any degradants possible, your analyte peak is not getting compromised. The quantification of analyte peak is not getting compromised because of the presence of the degradants. And this is called as the absence of interference for the quantification of your analyte peak. And as per as the absence of interference is concerned, if it is an chromatographic method, you can evaluate with the help of the presence of the peak during the chromatographic run. So if there is no peak eluting at the retention time of your analyte peak, for example, in assay, you are conducting the assay of paracetamol. So if there is no, and if your paracetamol peaks elutes at 5 minutes, and during all the degradation conditions that we discussed now, if there is no peak eluting at 5 minutes, that means at the retention time of paracetamol, then you can say that yes, my method is specific for this all conditions. Then the peak purity is also possible in case of you are using HPLC and UV detection technique. If your detector is UV detector, you will be able to also measure the spectral purity of the peak. And as I said that in the earlier session, that the amount of degradation you must target should be between 5 to 20%. Now here is another important point. So if in case your molecule is rock stable and if it is not getting degraded in any one of the conditions, it is okay. But you need to prove with the documented evidence that okay, we have started with the mild conditions and reached to the very strong conditions. Still, we could not able to achieve any degradation. That is absolutely acceptable and it's possible for some molecules like metformin. But try to achieve at least the 5 to 20 percentage of the degradation in any one of the above different 7 conditions. Then how to conduct the for degradation for the drug product? See, for if it is API, probably you will not have placebo in the place. But in case of drug product like a tablet, capsule, injectables, you will have a placebo in the place. So always make sure that your placebo must and should be exposed on all the stress conditions. If it is acid hydrolysis, also expose your placebo to the similar conditions as like the drug product. Also expose the API, your active drug substance, to the same conditions as like the drug product, then the placebo plus individual API. So in case if you are having a combination drug products like paracetamol and aceclofenac, and you have a common method for the related substances of aceclofenac and paracetamol, or even for the assay of paracetamol and aceclofenac as the common method. So how you are going to understand that there is no interference coming out of the different APIs to that of the another APIs or their impurities? And for that reason, you must understand the source of each and every degradants with respect to one API. And how can this be done? So this can be done by exposing the placebo and one API at a time. So placebo plus paracetamol becomes the your first sample, and the placebo plus aceclofenac is going to become your second sample, and then the last one is what the drug product itself. So expose, prepare the sample solutions for the placebo, then individual APIs, then API plus individual APIs, placebo and individual APIs, and finally the drug product. So this is possible in case you have a drug product in the hand. But in case of API, you will have only one sample, that is API sample, or maybe possible blank. Then when to use co-solvent? So in case of if your drug substance is not soluble into the degradation reagent, like you are conducting the acid hydrolysis, but for some reason if your drug substance is not soluble into the acid that you are using, you can use a co-solvent, little bit organic solvent, if your drug substance is soluble into a organic solvent. It is very important that you must make sure and confirm that your drug substance is into a solution form during such kind of degradation studies. And how much degradation to be aimed? I think we discussed this point, and 5 to 20% is always a preferable window for the degradation, because this will also not give the secondary degradation. So impurities will not further degrade into the another impurities, and this is just an hypothesis, but the 5 to 20% is a good window and it is acceptable in most of the regulatory markets. So I hope now this video must have given you an overview of how to conduct the first degradation study. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I will meet you soon with such kind of informative and useful video. Till then, take care and bye bye. See you soon.